Hi, I'm Ellen Scroggins, the adult programmer at the Faulkner County Library, and welcome to our very first episode of Cookbook Corner, the video program where I'm going to teach you how to make recipes out of the cookbooks we have available for you to check out here at the library. Our first recipe is going to be Roasted Mushroom Quesadillas from the Food Matters Cookbook by Mark Bittman. Okay, so for our first Cookbook Corner, we're making Roasted Mushroom Quesadillas. This recipe is not very complicated. The first thing you're going to need to do is preheat your oven to 400 degrees. So for this recipe, you're going to need an oven-safe skillet, and you're also going to need something to toast your quesadillas on, a flat pan that you can put into the oven. You will need olive oil, mushrooms sliced, salt and pepper, whole wheat tortillas, garlic, fresh sage, and a nice melting Mexican style cheese. I chose Colby Jack for mine. So the first thing you're going to need to do is get 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil into your skillet. And we're going to put that in the oven for just a couple minutes. Since this is a roasted mushroom quesadilla, everything goes in the oven instead of being heated up on the stove itself. So we're going to heat that until it's fragrant but not smoking. It should really just be maybe 1 or 2 minutes in the oven. And then we're going to move on to the next step. Okay, so our oil has had the chance to heat up now, so we're going to get it out of that oven. Make sure you're always very careful when handling hot things. As you can see, the oil is much more liquidy now, swirls around so beautifully. So now we're going to add our mushrooms to that pan. Oh, you can hear them already starting to sizzle. Now the recipe calls for 1 pound of mushrooms, but I have a very small pan and a very small oven, so I'm only going to do what fits in nicely. And then you're going to sprinkle some salt over the top. You might want to use your hand if you're not confident in your ability to sprinkle salt freely. And get a little bit of pepper on there. Again, just kind of however much you tend to like in your food. So if you're sensitive to it, you might not put very much. If you really like things to have a kick, put as much as you feel like. Now that we have our mushrooms in there, we're going to stir them up a little bit. And make sure that they get coated with that oil. And once they're good and coated, we're going to put them back in the oven for 20 minutes so they can start roasting. All right, so once your mushrooms are done with their first round of roasting, you're going to want to carefully take them out of the oven, if I can catch the handle there. And as you can see, they should be beautifully kind of dried up a little bit, but you can still see some moisture in the bottom of the pan there. And so once you have that out, you're going to get your garlic and you're going to add that in. Make sure it all gets in there. And you're going to need about 1 tablespoon of garlic, as you can see, finely minced. And you're going to need your sage. Now, if you've never chopped sage before, it's not hard. So you're going to try to get the leaves, individual leaves, pack them together like this. And then kind of like they're a little rolled up. Like a little Tootsie Roll, and then you're going to just cut little sections off. And that's really it. You can see they come apart nicely. If you feel like they're still a little too chunky, you can always do a little chopping action. Make sure you have a sharp knife if you're going to do that. And then once you're done, you put it with the rest. And you're going to need about 1 tablespoon of this as well. Or you can just kind of measure it by eye. You know, you can just kind of, that's about 1 tablespoon. Put it in there. You can also use dried sage. If you're using dried, you're going to want to use a little more because the flavor can be a little weaker. And so you're going to kind of mix those in together. Make sure not to touch the hot handle with your bare hand like someone just did. Kind of mix those in with the mushrooms nice and well. And then we're going to carry those over and put them back in for another 10 minutes. And at this point, you're just kind of doing it by eye. You're going to roast them in 10-minute intervals until they're completely dehydrated. The garlic and the sage have really merged in and there's no liquid left. Okay, so right when your mushrooms are just about done roasting, you're going to want to grab your tortilla and get it ready. So you're going to need the pan you're going to put into the oven. Make sure to grease it up with some more of your olive oil so that the tortilla will not stick to it, because otherwise they absolutely will. Now this normal recipe makes 2 quesadillas, so you'll need 2 tortillas side by side. They can overlap a little, but since our pan is so small, we're only making 1 right now. So you can get your mushrooms out of the oven and ooh, look how nice those look. The sage and the garlic have colored up beautifully. And almost all of that liquid is gone. It's just a few drops of oil left. So you're going to scoot the pan so that you can put the mushrooms down. So what you're going to do now, you're going to get the cheese that you got ready. As a reminder, I use Monterey Jack, but any nice melting cheese, particularly Mexican style, will be great for this. And you're just going to spread that around on the tortilla as evenly as you can. I like things pretty cheesy, so even though I'm only doing 1 quesadilla, I actually did pretty close to the amount they called for 2, because I really like cheese. So once you get that ready, make sure to keep it a little away from the edges so that it doesn't spill over when it melts down. Then you're going to add a little bit of salt if you want to your mushrooms, not too much to overpower them, but it's always a good idea to salt at your in-between steps in a recipe. And then you're just going to get those mushrooms and you're going to put them on top of your quesadilla. Garlic and sage and all. And you can always, if you feel like one's about to fall out, you can kind of tuck them back in, kind of spread them over, pat them down a little. All right. So now you're going to put them right back in the oven and you're going to bake it until the cheese starts to melt. The recipe says it should take about 10 minutes before that starts going. So once your cheese is melted on your quesadilla, you take it out. And this is tricky. It's best to use your hands if you can, but if not, you can try to use some tongs. Oh, so you're going to fold it over and kind of pat it down. I'm actually going to use my spatula to make sure I can pat it firmly enough. If possible to crimp those edges, that would be great, just to try to keep it sealed. And then once you get that done, you're going to put it back in the oven for 5 minutes on one side, and then you're going to flip it and to the other side and do it for 5 more minutes, and you should be done. All right. So when your quesadilla is done, pull it right out. Don't forget to keep an eye on it when you're cooking it. It calls for 5 minutes on each side, but if you can tell it's starting to get very brown, you might want to reduce that time. But look at that. It's beautiful golden. You're probably going to want to let that rest for at least 10 minutes before you try to eat it. And then you can cut it up in wedges or however you like to serve it and get ready to eat good, because those mushrooms smell amazing. Thank you so much for watching. As a reminder, this week's recipe came from the Food Matters Cookbook by Mark Bittman. When you can check that out right here at the library. It's got so many amazing recipes that can really help you balance your diet and make healthier, more conscious decisions about your food. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you at the next Cookbook Corner.